Good evening everyone, welcome again to our Facebook Live. Everything you've ever wanted to know about NLP, timeline therapy, hypnosis, Huna, but we're afraid to ask. If this is your first time here, then welcome, thanks for finding us. If this is your second time, third time, or even fourth time now, because I think this is the fourth one we've done, then thanks for coming back. We got around about 1,800 views last week, so definitely the numbers are climbing. And just, if this is your first time here, just so you know, this is a live broadcast that we do every Thursday evening at 7 p.m. GMT from here in West London. And each week I get questions coming in from our viewers as to what they would like me to cover the week afterwards. And last week you may have seen that we did a Facebook Live all about an NLP perspective on Brexit and Trump. I've just seen that we've got Clare here. Hi Claire. And Steve McDermott. Steve, I'll be picking you up from the station tomorrow, sir, so that we can do our stand-up, stand-out of the weekend, which I'm really excited about. So yeah, last week we did Brexit and Trump and an NLP perspective on how those two results came in. And I was asked a question as a result of that with regard to Clare Graves's values levels and how that might have impacted the result that we got. Now, Clare Graves's values levels isn't strictly speaking NLP because it's a content-based model, but we do spend a significant amount of time on our master practitioner training teaching the Clare Graves's values levels model, because I think it gives some real insights into why people do what they do and how our values levels evolve through our life, both individually, but also as teams and groups, but also if you look at a bigger context, countries, the world in general. Now, as I say, that takes me around about a day to teach on our master practitioner training, and that's after our students have done some pre-study. So in our 20 minutes, half an hour tonight, I'm really just going to be able to give you an overview. But we'll pull out some useful things, I think, from a personal point of view and from a business point of view, and maybe also you'll be able to work out your own insights as to Brexit and Trump. Great, we've got Carmel's here, and Kira's here, Jenny's here, that's great. That's Jenny from the Netherlands again, I believe. So, Clare Graves was a professor of psychology in the US, and he developed a model of values evolution. And before he died, the model that he had laid out had 7 levels in it. The first level being survival, that's a prelingual level. Then level 2 being tribal, level 3 being aggression, level 4 being system, level 5 being materialistic, level 6 being group and cause, and number 7 being functional flow. And I'm going to spend a couple of minutes going through each of these values levels. Then actually looking at, if you like, a headline, if you like, for each of, and I just see that my mum is actually on the video as well. Hi mum. And looking at a headline for each of these, but then which of these values levels are important in our lives and the world today. Now, this isn't a linear model, so this is actually more of a spiral, which is why one of the publicized versions of Clare Graves's values levels is called spiral dynamics. So if you imagine a spiral twisting around, moving up the page, then here's level 1, which is survival, and level 3 is a higher development of level 1. Level 5 is a higher development of level 3, and level 7 is a higher development of level 5. But there are similarities in these particular values levels. And likewise, level 4 is a higher evolution of level 2, and level 6 is a higher evolution of level 4, and obviously therefore there would be the postulation of a values level number 8, though we don't really have enough data on that at this particular point in time. So, and also the evolution from one values level to another values level is caused by the lower values level no longer working for a person or no longer working for a system, whether that be a system as a team or a system as in a country. And the other thing that these things have in common is that the odd values levels, 1, 3, 5 and 7, are me values levels, as in they're internally focused on ourselves, and they are also active, as in the odd values levels, the people actually operating from those values levels go out and actually take action, make things happen, whereas 2, 4 and 6 are we values levels, as in they're interested in group rather than self, and they are passive. When somebody's operating from this particular values level, then they are passive, they wait for things to happen. So let's go back to our values levels, and I'll give you a little bit of a brief thing around this. So at the survival level, this is animalistic level. It's prelingual, and all the person is operating at this particular level is interested in, or all their activities that they do, is the 3 Fs, which is feeding, fighting, and having sex. And these really aren't the kind of people that we're going to be doing any dealings with. There would be, if they were a human being, they'd be very feral. So then the next values level is values level 2, which is the tribal values level. So this would literally be, in history where we've got a tribe, and the tribes stick together because it's safe, there's safety in numbers, and the tribe would be led by a mystic or an elder or a medicine man or woman. And basically the tribe would sacrifice themselves for the tribe and for the elder. So obviously there are still tribes around the world that will be operating from values level 2. I mean, we saw in the newspapers recently where an airplane a pilot had seen that found a very remote tribe in, I think it was in Brazil, which would very much be operating from this values level. Also, this kind of values level would have what we might call today kind of shamanic beliefs, in that they believed in that the world out there was dangerous outside of the tribe, and also they personified things. So interestingly, we still have level 2 operating in our culture at this particular point in time, because what we do is we name weather patterns. So interestingly, I think the storm that's coming in this particular weekend is called Storm Doris. So that's an interesting one as far as that's concerned. Then level 3. So level 3 emerges when a person wants to break out of the tribe and go out on their own once again. And this is very much its aggression. If it had a catchphrase or a headline, it would be "Express self now for immediate gratification and to hell with everybody else." So this would be archetypically, it would be the gunfighter of the Wild West. It would be Rambo, and those kind of the Schwarzenegger characters, those kind of people. So it's a very kill or be killed values level. The thing that the person operating from this level fears more than anything else is shame, being shamed by others. And when I say kill or be killed, I'm talking literal kill or be killed. Think about the gunfighter of the Old West. If you weren't the fastest, then you were going to die. So what you do is you kill that person first, otherwise it's going to be you that's killed. And we still have a good number of people operating from values level 3 in the world today. In fact, some of the most successful music is values level 3. Some of the real kind of like violent, aggression worded heavy metal music, but also a lot of the very aggressive rap music. Got Sue Warren, I think Sue's either in Australia or New Zealand at the moment. We've got Emma France. Is Emma in India at the moment? Great, so we've got a very international audience tonight. So, you know, some of the aggressive rap is values level 3, but then, you know, how many times do we see in the newspapers 2 rap artists having a gunfight in a nightclub, one of them winding up dead because the other one shot them? So this is very values level 3. Now, and no guilt. It's very much you can take whatever you want from somebody else. You can take their life, you could take their belongings, you could take their home, you could take anything from them, and there'd be no guilt or anything like that as a result of doing that. We then have emergence when this stops working for an individual, and we come back to the system, then we've got values level 4. Most of the world today is operating from values level 4. Values level 4 is the system. Again, if it had a headline, it would be sacrifice self now for attainment or salvation later. So, for instance, all of the religions on the planet are values level 4, in that you sacrifice yourself now so that you may get your salvation later, as in heaven or whatever version that various religions follow. It's also our legal system, and it's also the big organizations would be values level 4. It's very hierarchical, and no matter how high up the chain or how high up the hierarchy you go, there's always somebody in charge. Even when you're right at the top, then who's in charge would be God. Yeah, God, the creator. Values level 4 is where guilt starts to come in. So values level 4 is very much a command and control system, and the emotions that are used to control people would be the emotions of fear and guilt. This is what most people operate from because they have a job or they work. A lot of people don't expect to actually enjoy their job or enjoy their work. It's something that they have to do. And so they work doing something that they don't really enjoy, that doesn't really give them fulfillment, so that they can have their attainment at the end of that working life with their pension, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And this would be the majority of people today in Europe and also the US and also apparently the Far East. Then out of the system, if it starts to not work for somebody, then values level 5, the person breaks free once again, they go out on their own. If this values level 5, we've got it here as materialistic, if it had a headline, it would be money, status, and power. This is very much what values level 5 is about. It's about expressing self now for material gain now, without doing harm to others, physical harm. So again, 5 is a higher expression of 3 in that it is kill or be killed. You hear people talk about this in business, kill or be killed, but they're talking metaphorically. Interestingly, Fuji, the Japanese company that had Fujifilm, Fuji's mission statement was 2 words: kill Kodak. And they very successfully did that. Obviously, they didn't physically kill anybody, but they killed the business. This would also be the values level of entrepreneurs. And the other thing about values level 5 is that as well as being money, status, and power, the person operating from values level 5 has started to realize that their thinking affects their success. We've got Colin Guy in the West Indies. We are going from all around the world today. So values level 5 is a very conscious mind. And what values level 5 has noticed is that their thinking affects their results. Values level 5 would be the book Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. But it's also the values level where logic and science rule. It's the values level that said we're going to put a man on the moon in the 1960s. It's also in the 1960s the values level that basically said as long as we throw enough money and science at cancer, then we will find a cure. So this is a very materialistic but also a very active values level where the person goes out on their own again. Now, for some reason that stops working for somebody. There's two things that can happen with the values level if a values level stops working. We'll talk about some instances of this a little bit later. Is that if this values level stops working, so as an example, where this might stop working is, I saw it in the late 80s when we had the big crash. I think it was in 88, 87, 88. And a lot of people who were making a lot of money in the city lost all of their money. Obviously, it was a very, very painful experience for them. And I heard people saying, there's got to be more to life than money. So those people got a choice. They could either evolve to values level 6, or they could bounce down to values level 4. So quite often you might see an entrepreneur go out and set up their own business. Their own business doesn't work. They don't have money to sustain themselves, so they go back and get a job. If they've worked hard here and then the system doesn't work for them for whatever reason, they want more from life, but then they've got themselves into a position where they are financially self-sufficient, financially free, then they could evolve to values level 6, which is group and cause. So again, this is a we values level. If values level 6 had a headline, it would be ban the bomb, save the whale, let's go sit on the top of a mountain and meditate. Very, very interested in group consensus. Passive in that somebody operating from values level 6, they will only take action when everybody agrees and they've got true group consensus. They're also very interested in the ecology. They're also very interested in the protection of the planet, etc. In this values level, there might also be the emergence of the ideas of the unconscious mind or even the higher self. The first instance of values level 6 really emerging on the planet would have been in the free love movement in California in the early 60s. There's no values level that's better than any other, they're just different. One thing where values level 6 doesn't work is in business. The reason it doesn't work in business is because it's inactive, and also it's very much about group consensus. And if you're anything like me, even with small groups, attempting to get everybody to agree on one thing so we can take action is pretty difficult. Yeah. Then, if values level 6 doesn't work, we get the emergence of values level 7. And if values level 7 had a headline, it would be functionality. Values level 7 has really evolved beyond the ideas of good and bad, right and wrong. It's very much about functional. And a person at values level 7 has the ability to hold conflicting models of the world in their mind at the same time and be okay with that. What they would do is, if they've got multiple models and they're in a particular situation and they want to get a particular result, they would go, okay, which one of these models is going to enable me to get the best result, and would therefore then operate from that values level. But they are very good in dealing with paradox, and they realize that things are just a model, that they're not real, and therefore they have functionality and also flexibility. The person here at values level 7 also has put themselves on the cause side of the equation. Cause and effect first comes into existence at values level 5. So the person at values level 5 realizes that they are a cause for their financial well-being, and they are the creator of their own financial well-being, but they wouldn't necessarily realize that they were the creator or the cause of other areas in their life. Values level 7, very much at this particular level, we have got the point where the person has realized they actually are the creator and they're a cause for the entire their entire life, as far as that's concerned. Yeah. So let's have a look at some of the things that might have been happening, how this could explain certain things that might have been happening in the world over the last few years. But also look at it, I know a lot of people who are probably watching this video are interested in the empowerment business. We actually talk about this more on our Empowerment Millionaires program, because it really gives us some ideas about what values level we want to target for our clients, whether they be therapy clients, whether it be coaching clients, whether it be clients who are going to buy personal development trainings, etc. So let's have a look at a few things here. What we've got, values level 4, most people operate from values level 4. And what started to happen over the last few years is people have started to realize that values level 4 isn't working for them anymore. Let's talk about a couple of examples of that. So values level 4, you work hard so that you can then enjoy your retirement, pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, with your pension. And there's been a number of instances, probably over the last 10 years, where people operating for values level 4 have discovered that the people who were looking after their pension pot actually weren't operating from values level 4 themselves, they were operating from values level 5 and took the money for themselves. So the pot of gold was no longer at the end of the rainbow. That caused a lot of disrest as far as that's concerned, a lot of conflict. And though at least the people running the country have our own best interests at heart. But then what started to come out in the UK, what started to come out in the US, is in actual fact many of the people in the system, in the government, etc., are also operating from values level 5. That came out in the UK with the expenses scandals, if you like, where we found out that people who were running this values level 4 system were actually claiming more money than they were due in their expenses. So now we've got a lot of conflict for these people. Now some people in values level 4, since they don't like change, they like loyalty, they like stability and all those kind of things, basically put their head in the sand a little bit and went, okay, I'm going to batten down the hatches, close the doors, close the windows, draw the curtains and wait for normal service to be resumed. Personally, I believe this is normal service now as far as that's concerned. Or some people, when they found values level 4 didn't work, bumped up to values level 5 and went, right, this doesn't work for me anymore. If I'm going to have what I want in my life, I'm going to have to go out and make it for myself. And so they broke free of the job market, if you like, and went out and set up their own business. Or some people dropped down to 3. This was when we saw the rioting, for instance, that happened in Athens in Greece. And I was actually teaching this system, and I predicted that within 6 months, we would have the same kind of things happening in the streets here in the UK. And that was proven right within a matter of weeks when we had rioting here, particularly in a place where I was living at the time, in Ealing, in London, where values level 3 people went out as a collective, almost like tribal, 3 and 2 together, tribal went out there and attacked people. There was a gentleman actually killed in Ealing. But also, I don't know if you remember seeing it, there were youngsters who were breaking into shops, particularly corner shops, and they didn't have any guilt around this. They even were interviewed sitting outside the shop on TV news with their Alco Pops that they'd stolen. They'd left the champagne behind and all the expensive wines, and they'd taken their Wicked, or whatever it's called, and was sitting outside the shop drinking this stuff, and said, well, they've got what I want, so I can go take it. And that's what we saw as far as that's concerned. And I think we'll probably see more of that now. And last week we talked about Brexit, we talked about Trump, and I think these kind of things here are playing out with Brexit to a certain extent, and also with Trump. An idea, this is just my opinion, for instance, is that I would say that probably if we were to look at Trump from this particular values system here, then he's doing 5 behaviour and 3 behaviour as far as that's concerned, which obviously is going to cause a lot of problems for these people here, sandwiched in the middle, but also will cause a lot of problems for people in values level 6. Because quite often what we find is that people who are accepting values level 6 will have a high reject on values level 5 and values level 3. So people operating from values level 6 will definitely not like the stance or the opinions or the actions of Trump, operating from 3 and 5. And obviously Brexit, the Remain would have been an example of values level 4. So again, the people who don't like the idea of Brexit are probably people who are in this particular values level here. So you can see that this system actually explains why we do what we do and the kind of behaviour patterns that we have. Now, if you think about it also from a system view personally, we all start out on values level 1. As babies, we're values level 1. And then we get words and we begin to communicate. And we then move into tribal. And the tribe is the family. We then move into values level 3, where we attempt at a fairly early age, I think they call it the troublesome 2s or the 3s or 4s or whatever it may be, and they go into aggression, want to go out on their own. Also, quite often we see this again in the teenage years, when the teenager rebels against the family, wants to go out, but ultimately realizes in actual fact they're better off in the family, and they then go to the family system of values level 4. The majority of people, that's where their evolution remains, values level 4. There are then other people who then evolve to 5, to 6, and to 7. Interestingly, many of the wealthiest people in the world, if we look at Richard Branson as an example, Bill Gates, the late Steve Jobs, were all part of values level 6, the free love movement in the 60s in California. And they realized that it didn't work. It's not sustainable, because otherwise we'd all be in the free love movement by now. Yeah? And the free love movement is still there, but it's a minority. Given as an example that this values level isn't really sustainable. If we were to look at it in another model, it would be, if you remember I think it was the 1970s, maybe the 1980s TV series, The Good Life. That was very values level 6. They'd come out of Richard Bryars, the character played by Richard Bryars had been values level 5 and realised it didn't work for him anymore, and they decided to sell up and live off the land and all of those kind of things, moving into values level 6 with the various challenges that they had. So now, for people in the empowerment business, and I say this is something we talk more about on Empowerment Millionaires, where are our clients as therapists, as NLP practitioners, as trainers, as coaches, etc. Well, the predominant area will be here 4, 5 and 6, which does take up the vast majority of the population. Values level 4, they could be your client, but they're not going to pay for it themselves. So these will be your corporate clients, where they will come and do a training, they'll be coached as long as their employer pays for them. They'll love it, they'll really like it. And as a result of being coached, they might actually move into values level 5 and decide to move out on their own as far as that's concerned. And at values level 5, they will pay for themselves. But values level 4, people will be your corporate clients. Values level 5 is, literal and pun intended, rich pickings for coaches, therapists, trainers, etc. Because at values level 5, these people have realized that their thinking has a direct impact on the results that they get from a financial and wealth point of view. So they will invest in things that will change their thinking, either enable them to get over the problems that they perceive they've had in the past, but also get new strategies for the future. And also, not only are they willing to spend the money, they have the money. Plus, also values level 5 is very immediate. It's about immediate, instant gratification, very similar to values level 3. So, people at values level 5, excellent for clients. Values level 6. Now, values level 6 are very much into what we do. They're very much into NLP. They're very much into hypnosis. They're very much into timeline therapy. They're very much into things like Huna and spiritual development. And though many of them don't have the money to be able to do those kind of things. Also, there is a tendency in values level 6 to think that this kind of whole field of personal development and personal empowerment should be available freely to everyone. So these people are very much into the kind of things that we want, but they don't really want to pay for it. They will ask for discounts, they'll ask for, will you work with me for free, etc., etc., etc. Values level 7, well, values level 7 don't need coaches because they can coach themselves very effectively. What values level 7 will invest in is mentoring. If somebody operating from values level 7 perceives that you know something that they want to know, if they perceive you as an authority, as an expert, then they will come to you and they will pay you for that knowledge and that information. So I think, the thing to think about here is, in an empowerment business, is to aim at values level 5. Values level 5, headline, money, status, and power. So if a person in values level 5 realizes that what you have will enable them to get more money, more status, and more power in some way, then they are very, very, very willing and able to invest in working with you to enable them to achieve that. So that's a real lightning rapid tour through values levels. If you are interested in a book on values levels, The Never Ending Quest is an excellent book on this. It's also in my personality matrix product. It's also introduced in Timeline Therapy and Basic Personality, written by my friend Tad James, and also Wyatt Wood Small. So there's some resources there for you as far as that's concerned, if you want to delve a little bit deeper into values levels. So I hope that's been useful for you. And we'll be back again next Thursday, 7 p.m. GMT. And please, send in some requests as to what you would like that next week's session to be about. And I look forward to seeing you all here on Facebook Live next Thursday, 7 p.m. GMT. So goodbye for now.